Good morning, yogis, doggies. So we are all alone in the dog park, which is really great for us. There's no problems, no distractions. But the real test of our growth is how we deal with distractions. So I've had a few distractions yesterday. I was a bit upset about something. And then I watched these YouTube channels that talk badly about other people. And I'm like, oh no, I can't take this negativity. So, how do we remain positive in a world that pulls us into this negative zone constantly? So, I tried to make a video about a murderer, Chris Watts, because there were two women murdered by their partners, and he actually wants to get out. You have to understand, it shouldn't shock us when somebody who does bad things to people doesn't take responsibility. It should be shocking when they do take responsibility. And this is something very important: expectations. Don't expect the other person to understand you. Don't expect the other person to try to make amends. I think that is the exception to the rule. Usually, people that harm us and hurt us intentionally do not take responsibility. They Quite the opposite. They make you responsible. They scapegoat you. It's always going to be your fault. So you get into this loop. So now Chris Watts, he's sitting in jail after murdering his pregnant wife and two daughters. And now he wants to get out on some technical clause that says that if it was anti-constitutional the way he was investigated, I mean, a sleek lawyer could get him out of there, perhaps, or shorten his life sentence. He has several life sentences. But the sick thing is that he has a girlfriend. That's right, women. I've spoken about it in a previous video. Women, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with ladies? What you're drawn to psychopaths? So one time I went to this life coach, and she said to me that I attract psychopaths. Let me tell you something that a good wise woman told me once. The psychopaths, they go to everybody. They try it on with everybody. So don't take it personally if somebody with bad intentions. I'm not going to say a bad person, because I don't think a person who does bad things is bad. I think it's a person with bad intentions. I don't think there's bad and good. But there are people that definitely have a twisted mind, that their mind is not like, let's be nice, like the doggies, but they really enjoy harming other people. They get a kick out of being able to get something out of someone. And the best thing for them is to get something they didn't work for through manipulation. And there are many examples of this. But the problem, what I wanted to say is with this Chris Watts, is that he really thought that that the world revolved around him. And now he says, God's plan is not for me to be in prison. But how does he know God's plan? So he's reading the Bible and he skips over the 10 Commandments. Do not kill, do not commit adultery, do not lie, do not steal. Because actually I read once that everything is stealing. When you murder, you steal someone's life. So it's a form of stealing when you take something that doesn't belong to you. I feel bad if I have to take the life of an insect, because I know the insect came to this life and I have no right to take its life. So this is just an example. And as the animal gets larger, I feel even stronger that we have no right to take lives away. Because animals and people, there's such an amazing miracle of life. Yesterday, this father in the kindergarten said, my daughter is a miracle because she was born through artificial insemination and egg donation. And he had also a surrogate mother in Nepal. And I wanted to say, he doesn't realize that every child is a miracle. Actually, it's even a greater miracle when it's done without the intervention of science. It's harder probably to get a pregnancy through a laboratory, but if you think about it, oh, there's this guy with the dogs, I have to show it. Unbelievable. He's a nice guy, though. He takes care of the dogs really well, as far as I've seen. They're all happy. He's their pack leader. Distraction, distraction. So, what I wanted to say is that every person in this world is a miracle. And whether you believe in God, nature, creating force, Spinoza's nature as a God, whatever you believe in, a dog, I don't know, whatever God is for you. And I do accept John Lennon's definition. God is a concept that we call pain. But for many people, God is like suffering and it's punishment. But God is also protecting. And when Chris Watts thinks that God doesn't want him to be in prison, why wouldn't God want him to be punished? If we look at God as a father, what parent wants the child to have no limits? I think even the parents who don't give limits would kind of wish, that's how I feel, they wish like there would be somebody in the child's life that would eventually give them limits, whether it's a teacher or an aunt or another parent or a family member. So children without limits are very, very lost, and people without limits are very, very lost, and some of them cannot take freedom. Some people need to live in a place where they're being told what to do, which is why they're in prison. They cannot manage freedom. They cannot manage the big gift that God has given, and punishment that God has given, freedom of choice. God has given us, or the universe has given us, a freedom to choose between right and wrong, between harming other people and not harming them. And in kindergarten, you see it all the time. There are children that have to be told constantly, and there are some that have a natural sense of justice that will not harm other people, that have compassion towards other children. And whether they were born like this or whether they learned it at home, whether it's genetic, I don't know. I guess it's half and half or different. But this Chris Watts, like, oh, I'm going to try to get out of jail, and he has a girlfriend. 2018, August 2018, Shannon Watts, beautiful Shannon Watts, and her beautiful girls and her unborn baby were all slaughtered by this man. And now he says God wants him out of prison. So what I really can't stand is people who do selective reading of the Bible. Like the guy who beheaded the teacher. Muhammad is holy, therefore I can kill. Well, it says in the 10 Commandments, do not kill. So the 10 Commandments are your basic. It's like a beginner's, it's like the beginning. You're supposed to move on from the 10 Commandments to better places, but it's the one thing everyone should agree in every religion on, the 10 Commandments, because they're really the basics of morality, and which are, don't treat others like you don't want to be treated. You don't want to be strangled, right? So why strangle other people? You don't want to be murdered. You want to live. Everyone wants to live, so why murder other people? So if you don't treat people kindly, you should have a limit, and you should be put in a place where you can't harm people. And also it serves as an example. Because I don't know, if we didn't have punishments, I don't know how many psychopaths would just kill people. There's even a joke on the internet, if you could get away with murder, wouldn't you do it? Like, especially before coffee. Anger is a really destructive force, and anger and greed are really like the worst forces of destruction in nature. Like the Indian religion, they have a god of destruction. And they even say it's good to have destruction sometimes, because in order to build, sometimes you have to destroy. But as far as destroying other people's lives, that's really questionable. Who are we? Who made us able to destroy? We're able to give birth, I mean women at least, or men also, to bring life. So we're able to create, and we can also destroy. But the destruction has to have limits. You can destroy a person with a bad word. You can destroy a person with harming them in so many ways. And yesterday I had a really bad nightmare. I dreamed of people that did sort of nasty things to me, and I even dreamt that in my dream, they kind of ignored me. And I think also ignoring people is a form of violence. If you're a child that didn't get attention at home, um, that's a form of violence, to ignore someone. Now we call it ghosting. Especially if somebody's young and doesn't know it, ignoring a child is really the worst thing you can do. And or ignoring a baby's needs and letting them cry for hours, some people think it's educational, is really pretty bad and pretty shitty thing to do. And so getting back to Chris Watts, he wants to get out of prison. When was it? August 2018 and August 2020, 2 years. And 2 years and some months, he's already, okay, that's enough. I killed my wife, the baby, my unborn son, my two beautiful daughters, and 2 years is enough. So what does he think? Like 6 months for every life lost? But my question that doesn't get asked by this despicable murder, nobody addresses this question, is, do you ever think about her family? Do you ever think of your wife's family, the family that embraced you as a son? Do you ever think how they feel? Do you ever think what God says to them? Because one of the moments I really burst into tears was when the mother of the murdered woman said, I know she's in heaven. God. Oh, I'm getting emotional just saying, God and his mighty angels took my beautiful Shannon home. And this is a belief that she needs to hold on to, because if we know there's so much evil in the world of people that are greedy and angry and destroy other people, we need to believe there's also good forces and angels. Some people believe that in angels, that's right. Some people believe animals are angels. I actually had this book, Animal Angels, where people told all kinds of stories how animals came to them in dreams or came into their lives and saved them. I know that I had that happen to me several times, including the cat that's in my home right now. Animals come and help us. People come and help us. And these people and animals are forms of angels. Somehow, sometimes you meet a person and they say such amazing things to you and they make you feel so much stronger and so much more able to do things. And can we not call them angels? And then you have people that really, for some reason, just torture us and are mean to us. And the worst thing you can do is hold on to anger towards that person that harmed you. So evolved beings let go of anger and they say, okay, we forgive. But the person who forgives could be the mother of the victim, but not the mother of the murderer. When the mother of Chris Watts said, I forgive you, son, how dare you forgive him? You hadn't had a daughter that was murdered. Your daughter is alive. Your son is alive. You can call him and talk to him anytime. You can even visit him. Shanann's parents cannot visit her and her brother. How dare you forgive something that, it's like your son took something from someone and you forgive him. It's not your place to forgive. The person that has to forgive is the person who was the injured party. Look, I don't think I would have, I think for me justice is really important, but I realize that I'm not God. I cannot decide what is justice. I just know that the best guide is do not treat other people like you don't want to be treated. And when other people treat you badly, you need to realize that if you hate them, resent them, plot against them, you're just going to be in a worse place than they could ever put you in. Having said that, people who murder women, pregnant women, even if they're not their wives, should never see the light of day. I heard that he's now with the general population. Why is he not in a small little cell? I mean, he massacred his entire family. Why is he allowed to have privileges? He has a job, he has a girlfriend. I mean, come on, what is wrong with the justice system? So, I just wanted to say that. I was starting to record and it just didn't work. Maybe the universe didn't want me to record Chris Watts actually getting encouragement from this creep who says, you are the underdog and they're all against you. And then I saw this Israeli parliament member saying they wanted to have a bill protecting women. Sorry, Shoshana, but making sure that women are not in a situation where they don't have access to a bank account, that the husband just says, what I had happened to me, that we never had a joint bank account. And then this parliament member, who I don't remember his name, said, yeah, well, a woman can withdraw $10,000 from the bank account and then the man is the victim. And it's like, in theory, everything can happen. But if you are living together, raising a family, a man's earnings should go towards supporting his family. And the woman shouldn't have to ask for money like a little child, which is what happened to me. And then with time, the woman becomes less and less able to take financial responsibility until she's really treated like she just loses skills to pay bills, to handle money, because the husband takes care of everything and she doesn't know how much he makes. She doesn't know, and if she knows how much he makes, she has no access to it. She doesn't make financial decisions. If she works outside, then oftentimes the woman is also in charge of the children. I'm not talking about cases where both men and women work and they both have more or less the same amount. Usually the man makes more money. Usually. We know that men make more money than women. And when we're raising a family, there should be a financial agreement. That's the number one. Forget romance. You should ask yourself when you're dating someone, is this the kind of person I could trust with money matters? Is this the kind of person I could trust to take care of the money matters and not leave me without any money, stranded? Is this the kind of person who really cares enough about me to make sure I'm not in a bad situation? It's not about romantic love. It's about being responsible for children together. Is this the kind of man that if he finds another woman, will he just say screw you and move on? This is what I don't get. You have children with a woman. I want an explanation. How can a man who has children with a woman simply dump them the minute a new love interest comes in? And the answer to this is a certain type of person that treats a human being like an object, something you use. And these are people with a personality disorder. They don't see a human being as someone who has the same emotions as them. They don't see animals as the same emotions as them. So if you have a box, you don't care about the box. You just toss it to the garbage after you've done emptying the content of the box. And this is exactly how these men treat women. I'm using men, women. Okay, it could be a woman as well. But statistics say it's mostly men who murder their wives. If it was the other way around, there'd be major panic and the parliament would definitely make sure there's laws that protect the men. But because it's women and most of the lawmakers are men, they don't feel they need to do something about women being massacred. And that's really sad, because there's a crying baby here. I don't know why the baby's crying. There's a baby crying. And it starts with the baby crying, being ignored. I don't know. There's several babies together. I don't know. Yesterday I met this woman. She said her baby, they just reopened the care centers, child care centers, so she's putting her 1.5-year-old baby in a child care center. I don't know. I didn't grow up like that. But on the other hand, if you have a neglectful mother or mother that's not able to cope with staying home all day with the child, it's better to put them in a child care center. But make sure it's supervised. So I really went into many, many, many topics. And what I want to stress is that women are still the underdog, not Chris Watts' murderer of women and children. And I think it's time to wake up. If 3 women in America are murdered every day, and you have the president that you got to wake up, women, and you got to unite. And I think in the 70s, there was this song, Women, that came out, how we have to unite and be sisters. Sadly, a lot of sisters don't unite, especially not my family. But as long as women do not unite and join forces, not against men, because men are not the enemy, but against a society that doesn't respect their rights, um, doesn't give them equal rights, equal pay, etc. Who's going to help you? Definitely not a man who has a lot of money. The only one who is going to help you is a person in the same situation as you. But sadly, a lot of women, instead of helping each other, they just push the other one down, or they just take whatever they can, do not care about the other. It's a bad strategy. Long term, good strategy, short term. For instance, if there's a certain amount of produce or whatever that you can take home from work or whatever, and one person always takes it, she doesn't care about other people. Short term, gain. Long term, fail, because the other person is not going to succeed. And so when women, so long as women don't join together forces, we're not going to make a change. I mean, the American elections are up ahead. Hillary Clinton was not a feminist. She was protecting a rapist of a young girl. It was her first case. People talked about it. How can a woman protect a rapist of a child? And he was like, there was so much evidence against him, and yet she protected him. This is her first case. And then she denied, this poor young girl. She was how old was Monica? She was her daughter's age, a young girl. And then she was definitely the victim here, because there's a experienced man twice the age of her father, and she was in a vulnerable position, and he took advantage of his position, and that's how he lost. At that time, morality was important. Or let's say it's not at that time, but if you're a Democratic president, then you're not allowed to do things. If you're a Republican president, like Trump, there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do to get kicked out of office. Don't pay taxes, abuse women, speak. I mean, the way he speaks about women, that man should not be near public office in a world that is just. Just the way he speaks about women is just despicable. The way he talks about doctors and scientists is despicable. The man has no respect for anyone. Should be in a reality show, MTV, not a president. Anyone would be better. I saw posters that anyone would be better than Bibi. Bibi is another case. Israeli Prime Minister is not as stupid as Trump, but he's definitely not thinking about other people. And I just wanted to add, this is like, we have a problem with Orthodox Jewish people who do not respect Corona laws, and they send their kids to schools. You know what? I don't mind anybody in society that ignores the Corona rule, but then have your own private hospital, have your own private army, have your own private police. If you do not respect the police and army of your country, just set up your own private country if you're a sector like the ultra-Orthodox. I have no problem with them setting up their own private hospitals, but they have private schools, let them set private hospitals. But as long as they use the same public health system as the rest of us, who wear masks. Why do I have to wear a mask? This is what I said to a police officer when I complained about an extremist synagogue where people are sitting without masks, and it's the only one in our area that people don't respect Corona regulations. How come I have to be? How come I have to be with the mask the whole day, working with kids, and they don't? Because if something happens, the hospitals are going to be overloaded with cases, and this is what we have to think about. But if you are Problem is these sectors that are isolated from the rest of the society, don't serve in the army, don't pay taxes, don't go according to corona or emergency regulations. Then they have the rabbis deciding, sorry, but this is not a country ruled by a particular rabbi. And of course, don't forget there are different rabbis. So this one Orthodox rabbi can say one thing. Another, like Chabad, is very respectful of corona. They're not respectful of vegetarian people, but they're very respectful of corona rules. From day one, I've seen them wear masks, and their children, despite wearing very they wear suits even in the middle of the summer, but they always have the mask on, not only on the mouth. They're very respectful of the rules. A lot of them died in the US as well. So now they've learned the lesson. But there's rabbis who are very rigid, and they just say, screw the secular, and we'll just do whatever we want. Then set up your own private hospitals. Or don't allow people of a certain, let them have their own hospitals. Let them have their own police. Let them have their own army. Let them fight the terrorists on their own. If they think that the soldiers and police are Nazis, this is how they call them. Whenever a police person has to go in extreme ultra-Orthodox neighborhood, they're attacked. It's too much. There really needs to be, it's not just Bibi, there needs to be a big change here. And in Europe, it's funny because they have like a separation between church and state in France, and yet extremists are also taking over, beheading a teacher. This should be a huge red light. And if a person is a refugee, deport them. Deport people that preach for violence, because the violence starts from the preaching. The violence starts from their teacher, from their leaders. And if you have subgroups where people are preaching against the state, deport them. And in case of Israel, well, where are you going to deport them? Good question. It's a big problem. Just don't. We have to get rid of people that do parliament agreements with them, because there's such a minority. So how come they have so many rights to do so much? Because we have a prime minister that allows the extremists a lot of power. And I'm also angry. The last bone I want to pick is why Israel is doing peace agreements with United Emirates. Yesterday, their finance minister was here, where we don't have peace with Gaza. There are again terror tunnels. Partially, the terrorists did it, but it's also because there's no hope for negotiations anymore. And sadly, there's a sentence I want to say, it's with your enemy you make peace, not with your friends, not with people who want to do financial deals with you. It's with your enemies who want to destroy you that you should make peace with, or strive to. We don't have the situation like in France or in Europe, and these people coming from the Middle East or from Russia or from I don't know where, Chechnya, and infiltrating our society. These are our neighbors. These are our people that live with us, that work here. And we have codependency. There are doctors and pharmacists and all sorts of people working in Israel from the Arab communities, whether they call themselves Palestinians or Arab Israelis or whatever. We live with the Muslims. There are our neighbors. We are ethnically connected to them. It's actually, somebody told me it's a family